question. Bobiwine, you hear us?
Boys, and hi everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Go ahead, please.
Sure. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be part of the Pan-African Digital Assembly on COVID-19. And it's always my humble pleasure to give the little that I can give, both as an artist and as a former leader. I find it exciting and indeed important in this day and age for us as artists to be able to employ our massive and resourceful talents to combat the infodemic, well knowing that the coronavirus has been a massive, pandemic all over the world and indeed in Africa. But for us here in Africa, it is not just a pandemic, but like it's mentioned, it is an infodemic in the recent past. And indeed, what moved me to employ music to communicate to the people was because the pandemic was not taken as serious as it warranted. So much misinformation was coming from different lines. And indeed, it was being massively embraced, especially by the young people, well knowing that the young people tend to gravitate so much on the informal sources of information, that is social media and other ways. And indeed, everybody seems to own their own source. So that in a way can be catastrophic, and it calls upon people that have voices, and in particular this time talk about the artists and the creatives. It's important that we employ our talents, but again, give well-researched information that is instead going to save lives, not to jeopardize lives.
If I can, hear me? Yes. So if I can, Bobiwine use TikTok, don't go viral campaign, and with your hit song "Coronavirus Alert," can you tell us more about why you wrote this song? And of course, your engagement is essential, but this song was like a kickoff of our campaign, and you inspired us, and you inspired other also artists in that field. So how you can tell us more about it?
Sure, thank you very much. I was trying to say that it's interesting how amazing and important things come out in a very informal and interesting way. Now, this song came out of a conversation with my singing partner, Nubian Lee, when we were looking at ourselves as not just leaders, but as artists and influencers, well knowing that in the past, my music has moved from just entertainment to edutainment, otherwise known as education through music. So we thought of our contribution as artists, and indeed, well knowing that music is powerful, we decided to employ music. But like I was saying, the pandemic was not taken as serious as it so warrants here in Uganda, and just like many other parts of the world. And we thought we should attach enough seriousness to this issue. But again, also taking part in the Don't Go Viral campaign, it was more or less mandatory for people like myself to give the right information, well knowing that the pandemic gets even more ravaging to our people if they are misinformed. Here in Africa, our biggest resource is information, it is knowledge, especially because our healthcare system many times tends to be wanting. We needed to give the right information to the people so we can prevent the further spread of the pandemic. And by not giving the right information, we think the world, and Africa in particular, would be in trouble. So much misinformation was going on social media. Some people were suggesting that the COVID-19 is a virus that affects only the rich. And in the ghetto where I come from, many were joking about it as a disease that affects only people that go to the plane, since it's initially the people that suffered it were the perceived high class. So it was upon us to give the right information, and I'm glad that at least the right information is superseding the misinformation, and I encourage all of us to, continue on the right path.
The bad news is that everyone is a potential victim. But the good news is that everyone is a potential solution.
But I would like to ask a question here, maybe much more complicated than this. You're challenging a little bit. You know that many artists are concerned when it comes to openly licensing their creative content. The same challenges exist when we talk about open data. Can you tell us more about why these kinds of Creative Commons licenses are important in advocacy and awareness-raising initiatives like Don't Go Viral? Right now is a hard time for artists and actors and in the creative sector. And I know from my colleagues here in UNESCO and from the culture sector that they are really targeting these kind of objectives, but try to help to support the community to support the creative economy. And this is very important, and especially in this crisis. So what needs to be discussed so artists understand that they can both do good by openly licensing their content and do well by monetizing at the same time their culture products. There seems to be a lot of misunderstanding about the use of this license and its life-saving impact. So, Bobiwine, can you address this kind of these questions and try to highlight how you what is your views on this open license content?
Thank you, Mr. Moyes. First of all, I want to acknowledge that as an artist, and of course, with due respect to my fellow artists, Lulu, and all other artists, talent is a source of wealth and it's what sustains artists' families, and anything that is good that goes out there, you know, it's commercial and, you know, business for the artist. But in my own case, where I come from and my history, I did not get into music simply because I had an amazing voice or because I wanted to make a lot of money. I went into music because I had something to say on my own behalf and on behalf of many people that think like me, that needed a voice. So that was the primary reason why I got into music. And indeed, over time, much as live performance has been my thing and my way of income, I've always wanted my messages to go far and wide. And that is why I'm one of the artists that have not complained so much about piracy, music piracy. Although it is not a good thing, it's certainly not a good thing, but it has given some benefits, especially in Uganda, where I come from, where revolutionary music and socially conscious music does not get the opportunity to play far and wide. Now, in the case of the COVID-19 pandemic song, I thought that that was my personal contribution to humanity. It is more of corporate social responsibility. And indeed, the artists that inspire me, artists like Fela Kuti and Hugh Masekela, these are artists that, yes, they were very talented, but they taught us that music, especially in times of need, is not supposed to be for entertainment. It's supposed to be revolutionary. It is supposed to be edutainment. And that is the reason why I thought that if I openly license that song, it will do more for humanity than myself. My only reward is to be able to give a contribution musically. And somehow it also gives credibility to music. And that's why I also encourage other artists to once in a while do something for humanity and give it for free.
Amazing. Thank you so much. A very happy day for me personally and for all of the Don't Go Viral team and the i4Policy team and UNESCO, of course. Thank you so much. This has been a really incredible journey for us. And thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Lulu and Dr. Shakira. I'm not saying bye. I just want to say thank you and tell you guys that I'm grateful for all of you and the work that you do. We have a question from to Bobby from Renee Parker, one of our community members in i4Policy as well. Incredible woman. Her question, I mean, she first says that she really loves this song, the Coronavirus Alert. Her question is, if you could go back to before writing this song, would you want to change anything about it or add anything extra to it?
Wow. That's a big question, but if I was to go back again, I think I would just add one thing, the fact that we need to wear masks. I did not mention it, and I see that it's also another very important thing that we must remind people to do, to always wear face masks it's another method of prevention.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think also as an artist, it is pretty interesting to always go back and forth with the things that you produce and maybe wanting to change a few things. But I think it's a really important point that you mentioned, Bobby. Remix, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be our Bobby.
I'm
Yes.
sorry.
I also personally have a question as well, if I may ask, to Bobby as well. I think you as an artist, you have inspired a lot of people over the last couple of years in many different aspects. So what advice would you give artists who are still trying to create or are creating content at the moment to support the movement of battling infodemics?
If there's anything, if there's any advice that I could give to fellow artists and creatives all over the world, is to remind them of how powerful their talents are, and to remind them that there's some great voice, great resource that was invested in us as artists. And yes, it's all right to use it for our own personal gratification and improvement, but out of my own experience, the more you give it out to humanity, is the more it comes back to you in terms of satisfaction and self gratification. So let us use our music, especially in times of need like this, to better humanity, and indeed it will always come back to us in surplus.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree. And we should all take Bobby's advice on this, guys. Let's create more music and more content and more art. And we need to inspire everyone and all together, because without each other, there's nowhere to go. And artists are incredibly important. And I think through this campaign, we've also realized the absolute importance and the necessity of artists at all levels of our work, whether it is, in civic engagement or just simply for you to relax, if it wasn't for artists, we wouldn't be able to survive, being quarantined and so on. So thank you so much for your inputs, Bobby. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.